Hey, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm Dr. Ariel Hammond, and this is the Enrichment Entrepreneur, a podcast for current and aspiring entrepreneurs who are in the business of helping kids thrive. We're talking after school programs, summer camps, tutoring, enrichment, the people and places that show up for kids outside the classroom. I'm still building right alongside you, and that's exactly why we're here, to learn, grow, and figure this out together.
Let's go!
Hello, and welcome back to the Enrichment Entrepreneur. I am your host, Dr. Ariel Hammond, and today I'm talking about a topic I am really interested in and excited about. This involves some reflection. So if I were launching this exact type of business again in 2026, knowing what I know now, here's exactly what I would do and what I wouldn't. So I want to start with some data, with some statistics, just to set the stage for what we're talking about here. So half of the operators that I've talked to in the space so far are in their first 1 to 3 years with their enrichment business. One described himself as building the plane while flying it. I'm sure many of us relate to that. Another is mid-restructure from having a nonprofit to an LLC, because the governance and complexity with having a nonprofit was holding her back from expanding her operations. So this episode is for everyone in those early stages and for those who are just about to start. So if I were starting from scratch today with everything I know now, having a business that serves over 1,300 children per year in our community, here's exactly what I would do. So step one, I would choose the type of business, the type of programs that I would offer. I would choose that much more carefully. Not all enrichment businesses are created equal. Some programs are stickier than others, meaning they are naturally structured to retain participants for a longer period of time, years, maybe decades. So if you think of music lessons or martial arts or swim, gymnastics, dance, families stay with those services for years. Then there are more episodic programs, STEM programs, arts workshops, seasonal camps. Families try as many of those things as possible, and then they move on. So here's what I would recommend weighing before choosing which type of program you are going to build your business around. Think about the training requirement. How hard is it to teach someone else this program, this topic? I recently spoke to someone in the magic program round, and it's really difficult to teach someone to be really masterful of lots of different tricks and ways of doing magic. You also want to think about the material costs. Some of us, I have a STEM business, the materials cost thousands of dollars just per program. And depending on how many programs you have and instructors you have working at once, that becomes very costly, very, very quickly. You want to think of inventory. How much space does inventory take up? How much effort does it take to organize inventory? So for an example, from my context, we have lots of programs that use Lego. And some of our programs need specific amounts of specific pieces of Lego that we have to source from all over the world, the internet. Then we have to go through each one of our kits and make sure there's exactly 15 of this piece and 20 of this piece and 12 of this piece. And it takes a very long time. So inventory management is really difficult, and someone has to be paid to do that. So not only the cost of finding and sourcing all these materials and of even inventorying what's missing in the first place, but then going in, replenishing all these things, organizing them again, takes a lot of time. I love STEM. Would I do it again? Yes, I'll do it again, knowing what I know now, challenges that are specific to content-heavy, material-heavy programs. Because also something that I've learned the hard way, this type of enrichment business, there is a lot of training that needs to be done for an instructor to be ready to teach that coding program, that robotics program on day one. It's not one of those programs where Someone can skim the lesson plan 5 minutes before teaching and it's going to go great. We have to run through the materials. What are the kids getting by the end of the lesson? The instructor has to make sure that they know how to do that and that they can code the robot themselves to be able to do those functions by the end as well. There are a lot of technological requirements. So is the Wi-Fi sufficient? Where the sockets to plug in the Chromebooks if they need to be charged while the kids are using them. I mean, how are we going to charge them between the sessions? There are so many different considerations with this type of business. So knowing what I know now, I definitely would choose the area that I was going to focus on, but I would choose the area that I was going to focus on with the difficulty in training that particular type of program, training others to teach it. And as well as the materials. How much time does it take to organize the materials? How much money does it take to purchase the materials? How difficult is the material inventorying process with those particular types of programs? And if I were launching a kids enrichment business again in 2026, I would probably launch a different type of program. I might launch something where there are no materials required. I look at those types of programs with just a tinge of jealousy. Like, oh, wow. You don't have to have all of these other considerations. That is really nice. So yeah, that's just something to consider. Now, that was step one, looking at the types of programs to teach through that lens of materials and training. Step two, I would validate the demand before scaling. So I would make sure that I researched in my community, but then also on a larger scale, what are the trends in offering the types of programs that I'm offering? Like an example would be, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Pickleball. Pickleball is huge for adults. Lots of adults are picking it up later and later in life. It's like the number one, rec sport here for adults. Where's pickleball for kids? I've thought about this a million times. I don't have the expertise in it. But if I did and I had that business around here, why? Because it's a blue ocean. There's a lot of white space here. There aren't people teaching it to kids. Also in the Pacific Northwest, when the weather does get nice, people want to be outside as much as possible. It's a very physically active culture and community with a love for pickleball, and pickleball on not just a regional trend, but national and internationally is becoming more and more popular. So I would ride the trend of what is currently underserved, in high demand, increasing in demand over time, and there isn't a lot of saturation in that area. And why am I even sharing this idea with you all? A lot of times I will speak to others in the space and a common concern will come up that if they share information about what type of enrichment business they have, that others will steal the idea and take business from them, and then they're going to shut down and lose opportunities because other people know what they're doing. When in reality, just a public Google search can tell anyone what you're doing. And if we're thinking about it strategically, the presence of someone already doing that type of business is not as much of a motivator to start that exact type of business in your exact region or in your exact community as you would think. It actually would be an indicator to someone, oh, maybe I can launch something that isn't being done right now instead of jumping into what everyone else is doing. So an example of this from my own context, I started a STEM business in the Pacific Northwest, where just in the West Coast in general, there is a very high saturation of kids serving STEM enrichment businesses. So I entered a very saturated market that was being adequately served. And my differentiator is quality and the programs that we are developing over time that are more rigorous, more future oriented. However, the customer may just want a STEM program for their kids for the summer. They may not differentiate between the fact that my programs are teaching AI concepts and that the other STEM program is teaching 3D animation. They might see those as the same and meeting the same need that they have, and they may choose based on price. So the more businesses that are offering similar services and saturating a service area, the more commoditized that business service becomes. So the more competitors you have in your space doing close to what you're doing, the more that the customer then assesses you purely on price. And once you are judged and selected purely on price, then you enter a race to the bottom in which yourself and your competitors then compete on who can do the service, who can fulfill the service for the lowest price possible. And that is not a good place to be in. So if I were doing this in 2026, I would make sure that I'm looking at areas are being adequately served in my community. If you are considering maybe buying into a franchise, well, that franchise may have your territory open for a franchisee to purchase and begin offering services. But that is still different than, is the market adequately being served? Because there may be a similar franchise that is really dominant in your area, or other independently owned businesses. Or you may be in an area where there may be new policy and new initiatives around the government or school districts offering those services in-house at no cost to families. So you just want to make sure that you're looking at the bigger picture. What are the trends? Where's the demand going? And making sure that you are choosing an area in your community where there is a lot of opportunity and white space and others haven't done it yet. So again, in our step 2, we want to make sure that we validate the demand before we scale. So once you know what your community is not oversaturated in right now, and you know that the demand is increasing over time for what service, what program type you're going to provide, and you also are comfortable knowing the content requirements and training requirements and the material and inventory organization requirements. Once you have all that figured out, then you're going to move to validating demand before you scale it. So you're going to start with one site, prove the program, get those early reps in, and then let word of mouth pull you into scaling and expanding into additional sites and regions. So you want to track your data from day one. This could start off as a spreadsheet where you track your enrollment, the time of the program, the topic, the age range, venue type, all of that stuff. And you want to track as many metrics so that over time you can analyze the avatar of your most successful sites, and then you can scale and replicate similar sites. So if your most successful programs you find are, if you teach yoga and the most successful program is Intro to Mindful Self-Compassion with Yoga, then you're going to want to double down on that offering. And you find that it's the most popular in the summer, then you're going to want to duplicate that out, what makes that program successful, and and just expand what works. You also might find, using that example, that your level 3, advanced yoga for, I don't know, future yogis, something like that. And your level 3 class is the most sparsely attended, and you actually always have to cancel those programs when they're offered at the Parks and Recreation department. Then the market is telling you that that's not a fit. So let's not keep doing what doesn't work. So demand that pulls you somewhere is worth 10 times more than demand that you pushed your way into and then had to do a bunch of work and a bunch of heavy lifting and efforts to get the outcomes that you naturally would get without much work if the demand were already there. So go where demand pulls you, and be patient with that process. So next, step 3, you want to get your legal and your safety foundation solid. You want to get this right. So you need to know background checks. What background checks do you need? What training is highly recommended or necessary? What insurance do you need? What waivers, incident protocol? You want to make sure all of those, the bones of the business, because we are working with children, that you have all of those things in place and that you are protected, but also that the children are adequately protected. So first aid training, a kid gets a cut, you're you're starting your soccer business, kid gets cut. What do you do? Do you know how to adequately respond? Do you have the first aid kit with you? Is that part of your protocol? Think through those common scenarios and make sure that you have all of the safety measures in place so that you and your customers and the children you serve are set up for success and are safe. You do not want to skip this just because you're small or you're doing it all yourself. You want to set the foundation right so that as your business scales, your legal compliance, your safety protocols, your trainings, all of those things scale with you as well. We want to scale safety. We want to scale order. We want to scale compliance. And I have a resource for you. The Complete Enrichment Business Compliance Checklist is available on enrichmententrepreneur.com/resources, and it covers all of this. Quick break. I'm building NROPS, an all-in-one operations platform built specifically for kids enrichment entrepreneurs and operators. I built it because I needed it. Go to getenrops.com to learn more and get on the list. Okay, back to the episode. So moving to step 4, we want to make sure that we build our systems before we need them. So in a previous episode, I mentioned tools to get organized. The time to get organized is now, is today. Your calendar, your project management, your payroll, your templates and standard operating procedures, how you organize your documents, where is your curriculum? If it is printed, how is the binder organized? If it's online, how is your drive organized? Your materials and inventory, how are you keeping that organized? We want to build those systems, even if right now you have a chess business and you just have a few chess boards in your garage. How do you inventory them? What does the process look like to check in and out those boards? How are you transporting them? So all of these things need to be kept in mind. And remember that you don't need it to be perfect. You do need the good bones, that good foundation in place. So starting now, getting more organized, refer to that previous episode as you need to help you get organized so that, again, we are scaling and creating order so that we can expand our businesses in ways that work. And yeah. So step 5, knowing what I know now in 2026, I would find my people early. So I started Enrichment Entrepreneur, this podcast, after I finally got sick of not having community. Knowing what I know now, initially when I noticed that there wasn't the peer connection and collaboration, those networking opportunities, the ability to talk shop and share what's working, what's not. I would have started this type of work earlier. There are lots of lessons that have been learned the hard way that is unnecessary. There's so many situations and challenges that we all face, that we don't all have to experience for the first time on our own in 2026. The internet exists for a reason. Podcasts exist for a reason. Community is possible. So I would find community early, and those who are in the space in the kids enrichment business, I would also find mentorship early. So I mentioned in a previous episode, and I will continue to mention SCORE.org. SCORE is federally funded by the Small Business Administration, and it pairs expert mentors in business with small business owners. It is free to use, and you go to score.org. You can look for specific expertise areas, and you can also look for mentors, not only with expertise in the area that you're seeking support in, but also who have familiarity with the industry that you're in as well. There is no maximum of how much support you can get from different types of mentors. So you can start with getting a mentor for marketing, and then you can go for finance support, and then you can go to operations support. You can get as much support as you can handle and implement. So yeah, keep that in mind. And SCORE also has virtual events and in-person events so that you can have even more informational, educational opportunities to grow your business from local experts. You would also find people through LinkedIn. This is something I've only recently started to do. Many of us aren't on LinkedIn. I encourage you to get on LinkedIn and connect with me. My LinkedIn, just look for Dr. Ariel Hammond. I'm there. So yeah, connecting on LinkedIn with others in this space, connecting via this podcast. And also, we are launching very soon an online community. So if you would like to sign up, please visit enrichmententrepreneur.com/community. And there you can learn more. You can join the wait list. It is free. So what I would encourage anyone starting in 2026 to do is find one other operator of a kids enrichment business in your community this month and create a relationship with them. A peer-to-peer conversation, start there. You don't have to compare everything. I know some of us are very sensitive with how much we want to collaborate and what information we do want to share. Hence why it might make you more comfortable if you enter into a thinking partner dynamic with someone who's doing something completely unrelated to you. So if I have a STEAM business, I may want to connect with the local basketball youth enrichment business owner. I know that athletics, all that is very far from my skill set interest. So they're safe for me wanting to do that. And we can still compare notes and enter into community together. So just having that one person who gets it, who you can compare the notes you feel comfortable comparing notes with, will greatly help you in your journey. So our next step, moving along to step 6, is pricing with confidence. When I first started, this is where the previous step around getting into community would really have helped. I did not know how to price adequately, and I did my best researching on the internet, but running your numbers and making sure that you are pricing for success from the beginning, running your cost per session math, including the cost for your instructors, your coaches, the materials, the consumables, what children will use and can't be used again. So paper, those types of things, non-consumables, those materials that you can use over and over, like the basketballs and footballs. You want to consider your overhead, how much it costs, just the cost of doing business. So, your insurance, if you need a specific insurance for this partnership, all of those types of things, and your margin requirements. You should know your gross margin and your net margin. You don't want to underprice because you're new. And I know that's so difficult in practice. Someone can tell you that, but when you throw the price out there, it should hurt just a little bit. You should feel a little, just a little uncomfortable moment. You should feel that. That lets you know that you're not underpricing yourself. Sometimes when we're not confident in the value of what we're doing, we are afraid that people might say no, or someone might say that's too expensive. And so we try to price as low as possible to avoid that. But what happens if someone says that's too expensive? Then it is too expensive for that person. But do you have adequate participation where you meet your minimum enrollment, where you know your cost per session math, and you meet your gross and net margin requirement? Well, if those things are true, then your program is not overpriced. It doesn't have to be priced so that every single person can afford it, because if you think about that, if every single person can afford it, then it's probably free to them. And that's not what you're doing if you're running a for-profit business. So resist underpricing because you're new. You can become more confident in your pricing by doing a lot of due diligence in pricing your competitors, and then also price the quality of their programs compared to yours. So if you know that their maximum enrollment, for example, in my area of STEAM, I know that many have their maximum enrollment for after school programs at 18 or 20. That does not feel good to me. So I leave some potential money on the table to have a higher quality experience. And our programs cap our after school programs at 12 or 14 at the most. And that is smaller than many in the space, but I value excellence over all else. And I will build, and the business will build and prosper and grow and prosper from that foundation of ensuring that the conditions are set up for a high quality experience, versus, packing kids in like sardines. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I don't want to set up my instructors for that experience. I don't want to set up the children for that experience. I want to set us up for a fantastic, rigorous, adequately individualized experience. So yeah, I would not underprice. I would keep that in mind. If my program has a maximum of 12, but someone else's has a maximum of 20, well, that is a different experience that the that the customer is paying for. And how do I adequately communicate that value in my marketing materials? And then how do I price according to that additional value that I provide through a smaller group experience? So yeah, you want to make sure that you are pricing to reflect the true value of your programs. Your program costs what it costs. If you underprice it, you're losing out on the revenue that it takes to sustain you and your business long term. So price it according to its value, and so that it reflects the cost of running that program and while protecting your margins. And so here, what feels like a resistance to a price is usually a miscommunication in value. So if a customer does not understand why your program is priced so significantly more than their other options, that means you're not communicating the value of your program adequately. So, for example, my business, our programs are priced higher than those in the enrichment space overall. Our pricing reflects how expensive it is to get these materials. Our materials are the most expensive. Our training, our curriculum is the most difficult to teach, train, onboard someone to be able to effectively teach this. So it requires a high level of mastery, expertise, very expensive materials, and it requires a smaller group so that kids can get the support that they need to have those robust learning outcomes. Our programs, therefore, reflect that. It reflects all of those resources that we need in place to teach the programs that we do. So our programs are going to be more expensive than others in the enrichment space. Parents understand that innately, and we have very little resistance to our pricing. So in the beginning, I had issues with communicating the value of the program. I would have guardians tell me when they picked up their kids, like, "Oh, I thought it was just a Lego play hour." Oh, okay. Well, if you think we're just doing a free play hour, then having it priced at a premium rate is an incongruence with what that service would be. But that's actually not what we're doing. So how have I inadequately communicated such that this would be the anticipated thought of what this program is? So that's a marketing issue. That's a branding issue. That's a communication issue that I then need to address. And one more thing I want to mention with pricing is that where we start off with our pricing is really crucial. So if we're starting super low, then every time we increase our pricing, if we say we priced well below market rate or the value of our program, maybe we're like 50% below because we didn't have confidence. So our pricing was actually an apology to the customer. Sorry, I'm asking you for money. Sorry, I'm insecure. Can you just give me just this little amount? And we put that price out there. Well, when we get our reps in and we realize, wow, look at the outcomes kids are having. This program next to me is priced at double mine. And wow, it's night and day. Like, we are just off to the races here. We are doing amazing things. But this next to me, people are willing to pay twice as much, and they're not doing half as much as we're doing. They don't have the customer service. They don't have all these different things that we have. Wow. That make it a more valuable and premium experience. And so then you want to increase your price and you want to get close to where those others are. Well, if you're increasing your price out of nowhere, 40, 50%, that feels like a shock to your customers. That is where the resistance starts to come in. The resistance wasn't about how you priced it in the first place. It wasn't about your program being highly valuable. It's just comparison now. So people are going to compare you to yourself. If your price last month was half of what it is today, that is infuriating. Or at the very least, that's frustrating. And if there is a significant price increase, all this goes to say, don't resist writing your pricing if you find that you've drastically underpriced your services. You want to get it right as quickly as possible, but you also want to be very mindful and intentional with how you make those changes, the timing of those changes, and also how you communicate those changes. You don't want to lose your supporters so far. So just keep that in mind. So our program pricing calculator worksheet, it actually walks you through all of this math so that you can stop guessing. So your support is here. We got you. This is free at enrichmententrepreneur.com/resources. You can also grab the value statement worksheet. It helps you articulate why your program is worth what you're charging. So you want to have that verbiage, you want to have that messaging down packed so that when it's time to explain your pricing to a potential partner, you want to be able to communicate the value of your program. So now we're moving to step 7. If I were starting a youth enrichment business in 2026, here is what I would do. I would make it super easy for people to find me and get into contact with me. So I would make sure I have a website. It doesn't have to be the perfect website. Again, perfect is the enemy of done. You want to be done first and foremost. You should be able to look back at your first version of your website and just shake your head. Wow, look at that. You want to have that experience. And if you don't, that means you started too late and you launched it too late. Just launch it with what you have. You can pay someone on Fiverr as low as $100 to get your landing page and your contact information listed there. It can be done in less than a week. Pay someone to do it. You want it up. You want to have a visible email address. There are different ways to minimize spam bots using that email address for those things. But in the beginning, if you don't have those things in place, just have your email address prominently displayed for how people can get into contact with you on that website. You want to have it very visible and very clear. You could have a call to action. Want our programs at your school? Email us here. Looking to register your child for our programs? Contact us here. Call here. You want to have a phone number. You want to have your email address. You want to have your Google profile with your website and your phone number listed so that people can find you. Here, you do not need a massive marketing kit or to be working with a huge marketing conglomerate or marketing firm. You don't need all that. You just need to be findable to start. You don't need all the SEO and all not to start. Eventually you'll get there, but just make sure you have your website, that the website works, that you have your contact information there, that you have your Google profile active, a phone number that is easy to find and get in contact with, and an email address. Those things are a great start. And remember that when demand pulls you somewhere, your programs perform better. So it's really important that you have that easy to reference, easy to find, so that when parents participate in the lessons and then they want to have you at their school, or they're interested in then participating in a workshop that you offer, or maybe they want to see if you are willing to do a birthday party or something like that, that they are able to easily get into touch with you. So we've got to make sure that people can reach us. So here we have another resource. So the school partnership outreach template pack has everything you need to reach specifically those school level enrichment coordinators and land your school-based sites. That resource is available at enrichmententrepreneur.com/resources. So we just went over quite a few different things that I would do or do differently if I were starting this business in 2026. From this, I'm giving you different ideas, things that you can do to get started or to have that early success or increase your likelihood of success. So to close this out, I just want to iterate. that all of this doesn't have to happen at the same time. What's most important is that we are thoughtful and intentional with what we start, when we start it, why we start it, and how we start it. So getting the bones and the foundation right, building and scaling from there, and the rest will come. Operators who get stuck are those who try to scale before they validated the demand for their services, or they hire before they've systematized, or they've grown before they've priced correctly. So you want to do these steps in the sequence so that you can grow the right thing at the right time in the right way. And all of the resources available at enrichmententrepreneur.com are there to support you as you start, as you launch, and as you learn, and as you grow. So remember, we have the Youth Enrichment Launch Toolkit program. We also have the program pricing calculator, the value statement worksheet so that you can communicate the value of your program, of the school partnership outreach template pack, and we have the complete enrichment business compliance checklist. So all of those resources are available at enrichmententrepreneur.com/resources. All right. Thanks for hanging with me today, and I will see you next time. Bye. And one more thing. Remember, I'm building NROPS, finally, an all-in-one platform built specifically for kids, enrichment, entrepreneurs, and operators. We're talking everything all in the same place. Finally, from scheduling to instructor management to partner and parent communication to onboarding and registration, all of it. I built it because we need it. So go to getinrops.com to get on the list. See you next episode. And that's a wrap. Know someone who needs to hear this episode? Share it because
Sharing is caring.
if this episode earned it, give us all the stars in a review on whatever platform you're listening on because it helps other enrichment entrepreneurs find this show. Got a question or a story worth telling? Head to enrichmententrepreneur.com. You can submit your questions, apply to be a guest, and access resources to help you launch and grow your business. Again, that's enrichmententrepreneur.com.
Until next time, keep learning, keep building.